Hi everyone, welcome back to Falcon's House. Sorry for the delay, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, and it ended up being a pretty busy week for me, so I didn't have time to do an episode here. This is the Lost Watch vlog, and this will be Season 4, Episodes 5 through 8. So I'll do another 4 episode block. We're still technically ahead of the 2 episode pace that I had set, but I was hoping to get one out last week and another one this week, but oh well, here we go. This episode was great. It covered the 2 time frames, all in Desmond's mind, and was unlike anything else so far. I don't know if I can do this episode justice, or even if I notice everything that happened. So I'll have a minimal commentary, and then I'll just more explain what happened in the episode. I think it established how the time travel system works in the universe, and the fact that the universe is always trying to correct itself, with Charlie dying over and over, and Desmond trying to save him. Of course, if Charlie had died earlier, then they wouldn't have had the same outcome with the freighter, so in a way he was supposed to save Charlie all those earlier times. Desmond, Saeed, and Lapidus experienced turbulence while flying the 80 miles distance from the island where they were stranded to the freighter. The Kahana is the name of the freighter. Desmond's consciousness travels back 8 years to 1996, when he is serving with the British Army's Royal Scots Regiment. Moments later, when his consciousness returns to the present day, he neither knows where he is or recognizes his companions, and has no memory of his life since 1996. I wonder why his past memories work, but not his memories in the return jump. Oh, one other thing, I am using Wikipedia once again for these recaps. After the helicopter lands, Desmond continues to jump between 1996 and 2004. He is taken to sickbay, where a man named George Minkowski is strapped to a bed because he is experiencing similar problems. Minkowski was also the one on the radio they continually talked to. Minkowski explains that someone sabotaged the radio room 2 days earlier, and that Penny has been trying to contact the freighter. Saeed uses the satellite phone to contact Jack Shepard on the island and explains that Desmond has appeared to have amnesia. Daniel asks Jack whether Desmond had recently been exposed to a high level of radiation or electromagnetism, almost like the Swan. Jack is unsure, and so Daniel speaks to Desmond to ask him about his situation. Desmond responds that he believes that he is in 1996 and is serving with the Royal Scots. Faraday understands and tells Desmond that when he returns to 1996, he needs to go to the physics department of the Queen's College at Oxford University in England to meet with Daniel's past self, and give Desmond some mechanical settings to relay, along with an extra phrase that Daniel assures him will convince Daniel's past self that the story is legitimate. Desmond's flashbacks become more frequent and longer. In 1996, Desmond tracks down a younger Faraday at Oxford, who takes Desmond into his laboratory where he is experimenting with time machine. Setting his electromagnetic device with the settings that Desmond has given him, Daniel places his lab rat, Eloise, in the maze and exposes her to electromagnetic energy. The rat appears to be comatose, then awakens and runs the maze. Daniel becomes excited because he had just built the maze and had not taught Eloise how to run it. Desmond realizes, like the rat, he is caught in a time warp that is moving his consciousness between 2 different bodies at 2 different points in time and space. Eloise dies of a suspected brain aneurysm brought on by the exposure of the time lapse. Desmond becomes worried that he will die like Eloise, and Dale instructs him to find something or someone, a constant, who is present in both times and can serve as an anchor for Desmond's mental stability. Desmond decides that Penny can be the constant. However, he must make contact with her in 2004. To find out where she lives, Desmond gets her address from her father Charles, who is at an auction buying a journal owned by Torvald Hanzo, written by a crew member in a 19th century ship called the Black Rock, which we now know is also on the island. Another connection from before the island we have. I wonder why he's so one, how does he even know about the Black Rock? And two, why is it important? In 1996, Desmond finds Penny, who is still distraught over their breakup and is not willing to see him. However, he gets her telephone number and tells her to not change it because he would call her on Christmas Eve 2004. 2004, Saeed, Desmond, and Minkowski escape the sickbay and begin to repair the broken communications equipment. Meanwhile, Minkowski enters another flashback and dies. Showing signs of suffering the same fate as Minkowski, Desmond telephones Penny, who tells Desmond that she's been searching for him for the past 3 years, and they reconcile right before the power is cut off. Having made contact with his constant, Desmond stops alternating between 96 and 2004. Back on the island, Daniel flips through his journal and discovers a note that he had written. If anything goes wrong, Desmond Hume will be my constant. One of the questions that I have is if Desmond died from this, how would it have affected the future? He couldn't have died in the past, or would have violated the rules of the universe correcting itself. Desmond has played an important role on the events of the island. I mean, he was in the hatch, and he saved Charlie a whole bunch of times. It would have completely changed the outcome if he actually had died. So he couldn't have actually died in the past, and it's had to get fixed. The next episode opens with flashbacks of Juliet's life on the island following her recruitment in September 2001 by the others. Juliet has had an affair with Goodwin, who is married to a therapist, Harper Stanhope. Harper discovers the affair and warns Juliet that their leader Ben will punish Goodwin because he has a crush on Juliet. Following the crash of Flight 815, Ben sends Goodwin to infiltrate a group of surviving passengers. Goodwin is killed by Ana Lucia after she realizes he is not a survivor. On October 2004, Ben invites Juliet to what he initially describes as a dinner party, but is actually a private date. Ben leaves Juliet to Goodwin's impaled corpse, where she accuses him of having wanted Goodwin to die. Ben then subsequently reveals his love for her. The show has so many unhealthy relationships, and Ben is acting like Charlie in this case, with like this really sick puppy love, this infatuation. It's a similar thing that like between like how Jack and Sawyer act with Kate. Like none of them can just say their damn feelings and express what they really want to say, so that choices can be made. Everybody seems to like assume that everybody else feels the same way or be creepy about it. I do not understand the relationships. Like the only one that I know so far that's really been healthy are like Rose and Bernard. They have a normal relationship, but a lot of the other people do not and don't seem capable of it. On the night of December 24th, 2004, 3 months after the crash of Flight 815, Daniel and Charlotte, who landed on the island 3 days earlier with a hidden agenda, sneak off to find the Tempest. Juliet and Jack notice their absence from the beach camp and pursue them. After hearing the whispers, Harper approaches Juliet. She tells her that Daniel and Charlotte intend to kill everyone on the island by deploying a lethal gas at the Tempest, and that Ben's orders are for Juliet to kill them. So, what are the whispers? Why do they happen when some of the others show up, but not all of the others? On the trek back from the beach in the morning, Kate encounters Daniel and Charlotte and is knocked unconscious. Jack and Juliet come across Kate and they split up. Juliet continues for the Tempest alone as Jack mends Kate. Inside the station, Juliet finds Daniel in a hazmat suit on a computer. After the standoff, Daniel and Charlotte convince Juliet that they are not going to kill anyone. They are neutralizing the gas in case Ben decides to use it again, as he has 12 years earlier at the others-led Purge of the Dharma. Jack arrives at Tempest, and Juliet explains that those on the freighter came to the island to wage war against Ben, and she expects him to win. She fears for Jack because Ben thinks that she belongs to him, but Jack shows no worry and kisses her. At least he finally made a strong move on a relationship. In the barracks, Ben bargains with an 815 with John for his freedom. He reveals that Charles, the father of Desmond's girlfriend Penny, owns a freighter and hopes to exploit the island. Ben also tells Locke, who has a spy on his freighter, and Ben continues to reside in the barracks following his release. I wonder what Charles Widmore wants with the island. Why is it so important to him? The next episode focuses on Jin and Sun. Sun becomes increasingly worried and suspicious about the intentions of the Kahana crew. Despite Juliet warning to Sun that women who conceive on the island die during their second trimester, Sun arranges to defect with Jin to the rival faction led by Locke, who does not want to leave the island. Juliet tries to stop Sun from leaving by telling Jin that Sun had an affair, causing him to angrily back out of the journey at the last minute. And it's kind of a dick move by Juliet, but she is trying to save Sun. After a heartfelt conversation while fishing with Bernard, the only other married man on the island, he forgives Sun, who assures him that the baby is his. In the flashes, the episode's off-island story seemingly depicts Jin rushing to the hospital, while Sun, who has become one of the Oceanic Six, goes into labor. Jin's journey to the hospital is marred by several unfortunate incidents, including difficulty purchasing a stuffed panda and his cell phone being broken. Sun gives birth to a girl, who she names Ji-yeon, the name chosen by Jin. The final off-island scenes establish that Jin and Sun's stories are separate. Jin's story is set in the past, 2 months into his marriage to Sun, and he is rushing to the birth of the Chinese ambassador's grandson to deliver a panda as a gift on behalf of his employer, Sun's father. In their financial flash-forward, Sun and her daughter are visited by Hurley, who takes her to pay her respects to Jin. His tombstone indicates that he died on the day of the crash of Oceanic 815. On the Kahana, Desmond and Saeed are still waiting to speak to the captain of the freighter, Galt. When they are taken to see him, Regina jumps off the side of the ship, having wrapped herself in chains. Galt dismisses it as a heightened case of cabin fever, and asserts that losing her is better than losing several more and saving her. He says that he's employed by Charles Widmore, Desmond's girlfriend's father, and later takes them into his cabin, and tells them that Ben faked the plane crash by expending tremendous resources in the process, and procured 324 dead bodies to make everyone believe that all the passengers were dead. Galt proceeds by saying that the reasons that Mr. Widmore is keen on finding Ben and everybody on the island. After their meeting, Desmond and Saeed are relocated to a different part of the ship, where they meet Michael, who has not appeared since the second season finale, and he's working as a deckhand, alias Kevin Johnson. I hate Michael. He is the worst character in the show, and I'm not really happy that he's back. The next episode's about Michael. Anyway, the episode's opening is set on December 26, 2004, over 3 months after the crash of Oceanic 815. Most of the episode takes place on the freighter, moored offshore on the island where the plane crashed. The freighter is owned by Charles Widmore, and he is intent on getting to Ben. Captain Galt stops 2 crew members from deserting the freighter in a raft. He publicly beats them and shouts that this is to save their lives, reminding the crew of what happened to Minkowski when he left the boat. The next morning, Saeed confronts Michael about his motivations, and the narrative shifts into an uninterrupted flashback of Michael's life after escaping the island. Michael and his son Walt return to New York. Overcome with guilt, Michael confesses that he murdered Anna Lucia and Libby as part of his rescue for Walt from the other's captivity. Michael becomes estranged from Walt, who goes to live with Michael's mother. Michael is haunted by apparitions and nightmares of the late Libby. So, is he special too, in that he has this ability to see dead people? Michael attempts to kill himself in a car crash, but fails. He sells the watch that Jin gave him in the first season finale and buys a gun for another suicide attempt. But this too is unsuccessful because the gun jams. That night, Michael is confronted by Tom, and Tom explains that the island will not allow Michael to kill himself, and gives Michael an assignment. Michael must infiltrate the freighter using the pseudonym Kevin Johnson and kill everyone on board, who may try to kill his fellow crash survivors. Why does the island prevent Michael from being able to kill himself? How is it so powerful? Michael agrees to do it and boards the freighter from Fiji. Michael becomes acquainted with the crew and hesitates to sabotage the mission until he finds Martin Keeming and his associates target practicing with machine guns. After Michael tries to detonate a provided bomb only to discover that it is a fake, Ben contacts Michael by radio and explains that the trick illustrated his stance against killing innocent people in his war against Widmore. The flashback ends, and Saeed is appalled by Michael's association with Ben and exposes his duplicity to Galt. On the island, the others abandon barracks where some of the survivors have taken residence. Locke meets with his faction to discuss the freighter, and Ben reveals that Michael is spying for him there. Ben later urges his adopted daughter Alex to flee to the other sanctuary at the temple. For safety, she accompanies by Rousseau and Carl. On the way, Carl and Rousseau are shot dead by hidden assailants and Alex surrenders. What really happened here? Like, was this the group that was coming to hunt? Or were these people that would just randomly kill them? Essentially kill them without, like, provocation. They were just, like, walking through the jungle. So, that is surprising, and that's not the way I expected Rousseau to go out. Like, she was such an important character early on, and she knew the jungle so well. Like, I have a really hard time believing that this is the way she died. Carl, I can believe that one, but Rousseau, it just doesn't seem right that this was the way her story ended. Thanks for watching. Please share with other Lost fans, and like and subscribe.